Authoring your own story, the power of becoming your own narrator. Have you ever watched someone else tell your story? That moment when you're sitting there listening to them describe your life, your choices, your struggles, and suddenly you realize they've got it all wrong. It's like watching a movie about yourself where the main character is unrecognizable, yet everyone believes that's who you are. I recently had the extraordinary privilege of interviewing Franceria Moore Maxwell, a visionary who has transformed how Black women see themselves in professional spaces. Her insights weren't just thought provoking, they were revolutionary, earth shattering, paradigm shifting. What struck me most profoundly was her unwavering belief that we must become the authors of our own narratives, not just characters being written about by others. Franceria has created ripples of transformation that have become waves of liberation for countless women who had been taught to silence their authentic voices. Think about it for a moment. How many of us are living stories that someone else is writing? The boss who decides your value based on metrics that have nothing to do with your brilliance. The society that has predetermined what success should look like for you. The family member who keeps reminding you of who you've always been, making it nearly impossible to become who you might be. The partner who loves you but somehow never imagined you could be more than what they first saw in you. We've been handed scripts since childhood. Stay small, be grateful, don't rock the boat. That's not for people like us. These scripts come with stage directions too. Smile here, apologize there. Make yourself smaller in this scene. Exit quietly when things get uncomfortable. And for Black women, especially, these scripts come with extra pages of restrictions, footnotes of doubt, and appendices of know your place. The script often reads, be twice as good to get half as far, with the unspoken understanding that even then, success isn't guaranteed. But what if, and this is the question Franceria's work forces us to confront, what if we took that pen back? What if we decided that from this moment forward, we would be the ones determining how our story unfolds? What if we crossed out those limiting stage directions and wrote in our own? Enter boldly, speak truth, take up space, exit only when you decide the scene is over. This isn't just motivational fluff. This isn't a feel good speech that evaporates as soon as you face reality again. This is revolution disguised as self determination. When I explored the work behind the Pink Parachute Diaries podcast, I discovered something profound happening in real time. This platform emerged specifically because Black professional women were being told to hide their struggles and scars in professional spaces, to pretend perfection, to silence their authentic voices, to compartmentalize their identities until they became unrecognizable even to themselves. The podcast became a direct response to that silencing, a place where guests could share authentic stories of faith, resilience, vulnerability, and leadership transformation, where the messy, beautiful truth could breathe, where perfection wasn't the goal, wholeness was. And what happened? Listeners reported feeling seen for the first time. They found actionable insights that transformed their approach to work. A community formed around these shared experiences, a community that said, we refuse to be characters in someone else's narrative about Black professionalism. The name itself tells a story, recognizing how often Black professionals were handed pink slips instead of golden parachutes. But instead of accepting that ending, they decided not just to survive, but to fly anyway, to transform termination into takeoff, to rewrite the final act into a beginning. That's what happens when you pick up the pen. You don't just edit the story, you change the entire genre. What was tragedy becomes triumph. What was ending becomes origin. What was limitation becomes launchpad. I'm reminded of something Toni Morrison once wrote. If there's a book that you want to read, but it hasn't been written yet, then you must write it. The same is true for your life. If there's a life you want to live, but you don't see examples of it around you, then you must create it. If there's a path you want to walk, but it doesn't exist yet, then you must forge it. If there's a door you want to walk through, but it remains closed to people like you, then you must build your own entrance. This isn't easy work. It requires tremendous courage to look at a blank page and decide what goes on it when everyone around you is shouting their suggestions. It requires faith to believe you can write something better than what's been written for you. It requires audacity to believe your voice matters enough to change the narrative. Take Nahisha McCoy, another remarkable leader whose story emerged during my conversation with Franceria. Traditional corporate advice pushed Nahisha toward compartmentalizing her identity, leaving her personal truths at home, which led to profound internal conflict. She was told success meant fitting into boxes created by others, boxes that were never designed to hold all of who she was. But Nahisha made a different choice. She embraced vulnerability by sharing her lived experience intentionally with both peers and clients. This wasn't just personally healing, it was strategically brilliant. It fostered trust within teams while modeling authenticity at scale. She discovered that what she'd been told was her greatest liability, her full, authentic self, was actually her greatest asset. Her approach influenced broader cultural shifts toward healing centered workplaces among Black professionals. Teams became more cohesive. Organizations saw improved retention among marginalized employees who felt newly empowered by representation at leadership levels. What began as personal liberation became organizational transformation. As she moved through corporate environments designed without her in mind, Nahisha realized authenticity wasn't just personally fulfilling, but strategically powerful. She began teaching others how telling their truth could transform whole systems, how bringing your whole self to work wasn't just about personal comfort. It was about creating workplaces where innovation could flourish because people weren't wasting energy on pretending to be someone they are not. This is what it means to be the creator of your story, not just a character in it. It means recognizing that your voice, your experience, your truth has the power to reshape not just your life, but entire organizations, communities, industries. But to do this, to truly author your own story, you must first name what you want. This is the second profound truth that emerged from my conversation with Franceria. Naming and honoring what you truly want is essential. We've been conditioned to shrink our desires for other people's comfort, to make our dreams palatable, to ask for less than we need, to want within acceptable boundaries. I'd like a small raise if it's not too much trouble. I'm thinking about maybe starting a little side business, nothing serious. I'm just hoping to make a tiny difference. Small, little, tiny, just maybe. If it's not too much trouble, these are the words of someone who's been told their desires are too big, too bold, too much. These are the words of someone who's learned to negotiate with themselves before they ever reach the table. These are the words of someone who's been taught that wanting itself is dangerous, but clarity about your vision is the first step toward manifesting it. You cannot create what you cannot name. You cannot build what you cannot envision. You cannot become what you cannot imagine. Letitia Clark understood this principle deeply. She created an initiative specifically aimed at amplifying Black women's voices within professional spaces where Silence had become normalized due to fear or marginalization. In corporate America, she witnessed talented Black women losing jobs quietly while less qualified peers thrived, a pattern perpetuated by enforced silence around struggle or unfairness. She saw brilliant women being written out of their own professional stories, their departures becoming cautionary tales rather than calls for systemic change. So, Letitia built safe forums where these stories could be spoken aloud without shame. A radical act given prevailing industry norms favoring polished facades over honesty about adversity faced by minorities, especially women of color leaders. Her platform provided validation for hundreds who felt invisible before and equip them with tools needed both personally and professionally so they could re enter career conversations with renewed confidence and purpose aligned directly with their truth rather than old scripts handed down from gatekeepers. After years watching colleagues disappear silently under pressure, she resolved never again to let anyone believe they were alone, powerless, voiceless, unseen, unheard, or unvalued. This is what happens when we name what we want without apology. When we say, I want to create spaces where Black women can speak their truth without fear. When we say, I want to build systems that value our whole selves. When we say, I want more and I deserve it. The third truth that Franceria's work illuminates is perhaps the most challenging. Transformation requires embracing growth and believing in possibility. Every yes, whether to a dream, love, or change, will demand that you evolve into someone new. Every time you pick up that pen to write a different story, you must become a different writer. Every time you choose a different path, you must become a different traveler. This is where many of us get stuck. We want new outcomes without becoming new people. We want different results without different actions. We want transformation without the discomfort of growth. We want to author new stories while holding on to old identities. But simply believing that better is possible means you've already started winning. The moment you reject the limitations others have placed on your story, you've already begun rewriting it. The moment you believe you deserve more than what you've been given, you've already started creating it. The Pink Parachute Diaries has now featured over 300 episodes with trailblazers who've turned setbacks into comebacks. Real life strategy sessions on building careers rooted in purpose rather than performance alone. Conversations within industries are shifting toward authenticity. Listeners build new approaches for healing centered leadership that ripple out beyond individual workplaces, all because someone believed better was possible, all because someone was willing to grow into the person who could create that possibility. All because someone said yes to transformation. This is the invitation before each of us today. Will you pick up the pen? Will you name what you want without apology? Will you embrace the growth required to transform not just your life, but the systems around you? I want to be clear about something. This work isn't easy. When you decide to author your own story, you will face resistance from others, yes, but often most fiercely from within yourself. That inner critic will tell you that you're being unrealistic, selfish, ungrateful. It will remind you of all the times you failed before. It will question who you think you are to want more, to demand better, to create change. Listen to that voice, acknowledge it. Thank it for trying to protect you from disappointment and rejection, and then gently set it aside and write anyway. Because the world needs your story, not the sanitized, acceptable version that makes everyone comfortable, but the raw, honest truth of who you are and what you desire. The world needs your voice, not the polite, modulated tone that offends no one, but the authentic expression of your full humanity. The world needs your leadership, not the kind that maintains systems of inequity, but the kind that imagines what could be possible if everyone could author their own story. So today, not tomorrow, not when you feel more ready, not when the circumstances are perfect. Today, name what you deeply desire without apology. Write it down, speak it aloud, share it with someone who will hold that vision with you. Then take one small action towards stewarding that vision into reality. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait until you feel qualified. Don't wait for someone else to validate your dream. Take that first step, however imperfect it might be. Because here's what I know for certain after speaking with Franceria and exploring the stories of the women she's impacted. You already have everything you need to begin. You have the pen, you have the page, you have the power to write what happens next. And I believe with every fiber of my being that the story you're about to write will change everything, not just for you, but for all of us who are waiting to see what's possible when you finally claim your voice as the author of your own magnificent life. The world is waiting for your story. It's time to start writing.